Hello, friends. It's Carly, and welcome back to another video in this Aries North Node series. This is actually the fifth video, number 5, in the series. So if you haven't checked out parts 1 through 4, I highly encourage you to do that. Parts 1 through 4 represent about 5 hours worth of content, and none of that is repetitive over any of itself or the hour 45-minute deep dive I did into the nodes when we had the Taurus transit. So this is a library, a wealth, a literal wealth, a literal small fortune of information that I have been on hiatus from my life for a week now, swimming in the depths and just exploring the ethereal space, the 5D, very meditative, very still. And this information is pouring through into this space. And so I thank you so much for any liking the videos, subscribing to the channel, commenting on these videos helps to nudge them out into the world where more people can hear what it is that's come into this space. I personally am once again so grateful for this series and the way that it is birthing itself. When I go to my own leading edge, it takes everything that I had planned and it's that's so cute and gives me something that's so much better than that. And so once again, this morning, here I am sitting with this awareness of the North Node and understanding it even more deeply and even more beautifully than I ever personally have. And so here I'm going to, I was like, oh my God, I gotta get on there. I gotta make this video. It's time. The baby is ready to be born. She's crowning and this is it. We're having it. It's happening. What's the protocol? Get your stuff together. Get ready to record. So I did that for the last 15 minutes and now here we are. So let us think and open ourselves up to what is the North Node? What is the North Node and what does it symbolize? And really to understand any of the planets or points, which the North Node is a point, it's not a physical body, it's a mathematical calculation. So you can't find it in the sky. Don't look, it's not there. It's calculated, and I'm going to find a good video that has a nice explanation for you on exactly how that happens, because that is just so not what lights me up about anything in astrology. I don't get all nerdy about the math of it. I definitely really resonate with the energetics of it. And the North Node energy is one of my favorites. And I have to say that I can see why for most people it's their least favorite, and I can totally see why. There are plenty of people on this planet who live their entire lives in their South Node, hanging on, proud as punch to be there, and do not give two shits about exploring their North Node. So I can see why that is, because the North Node represents where have you not gone before? What have you not explored before? What is unknown territory for you? What is the weakest link, the most vulnerable place that you could go in your energy? Where is that? North Node. Good luck getting most people to go there. That's not much of a sales job for most people. Most people are wanting the known, the comfort zone, the safety blanket of predictability and consistency and getting to know what's going to happen next, being an expert in what's going to happen next. All of that is in the South Node. All of those patterns of knowing are in the South Node. So what do you do to explore the North Node? You let go of what you know and you go back to knowing nothing. You go be a beginner. You be a student. You practice being a novice and having to study and having to struggle to comprehend something brand spanking new. And again, I will like step back and just applaud anybody who's chasing their North Node, because it takes a level of confidence, it takes a level of self-esteem, it takes a level of catching yourself when you fall, a level of getting knocked down and getting back up over and over and over and over. Like, how many thousands of times will you try? That will measure the success of your own personal North Node journey. How many thousands of times are you willing to try? Trying is such a vulnerable place to be. You know, like trying meaning, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to push on this thing and I don't know if it's going to move at all. It could bust right open and there could be a pile of gold on the other side. Like, and I could have got that. Like, whoa. Or I could push and push and push and push and push and never get anywhere with it. Like, there's just trying. There's open-ended willingness to try. Willingness to try something that I don't have a guarantee of how it's going to work out. The North Node is extremely growth oriented. And again, anybody who's on a North Node journey, like, good for you. Take a second and pat yourself on the back, because that's huge. That's huge to be on a soul leading edge evolutionary journey. Like, you're a freaking pioneer in your own life. Like, good for you. That's not nothing. That's not simple. It's not easy. It's full of fear. The unknown is one of the worst things we can come up against as far as like hijacking our fear brain. Like when our mind starts to lose the plot and we're like, we don't know what's going to be around the corner, that starts to build the anticipation. The adrenaline starts pumping to prepare us. Like, what if it's an enemy around the corner? What if I fall flat on my face? What if it just turns into a cliff and I just fall right off? Like, as soon as we don't know what's coming, our mind can imagine a million nightmarish scenarios. And that becomes a living horror show. And so working with the fear and the vulnerability of the North Node is something that, you know, obviously here we are in the North Node in Aries deep dive video, and this is the main piece that needs to come out first and foremost, is to not underestimate the way the North Node works with us. Like when we say that, you know, for example, I said in one of the videos that when you have your nodal return, so like in this case, if you have your natal North Node in Aries, that means when the North Node transits Aries, you're going to have them line up at some point exactly, the transit North Node and your natal North Node, and that is your nodal return. And so all of us go through a nodal return every 18 and a half years. And when you do, what I said in the other video is that it's a turning point of getting more up on the path that your soul came here to live. And I'm not criticizing past me. I think, you know, this series is it's a deep dive if there ever was one. So, the deep dives to spank all deep dives. That's what I just heard. Whoa, what a tagline for this series. So how I would take it deeper and how I would add to that very lofty abstract sentiment of you're getting up on your soul's path that you came here to live. So it's like a little bit of grounding, you know? Ever heard anybody? Oh yeah, that's what we learned in this cycle that, you know, I'm recording this May 15th, 2023. So in the cycle that we're just wrapping up of the North Node through Taurus and the South Node through Scorpio, what we have leaned into, the growth that we've leaned into, is to find our sense of inner security within ourselves, such that security and like being safe becomes a constant Because as long as you have you, which you will until the day you die, and like you separate from your body, like as long as you have you, everything is okay. Because in here is where it's coming from all the time. And that, for some of us, myself, we're at front of the line, like that's new territory. Okay? Like being able to feel afraid of like what's going on in the world around us, or like what unknown exists up over the horizon that we can't see yet, and you feel yourself start to like panic in that. And at that point, one, the Taurus North Node has helped us to cultivate our own presence, our own ability in the moment to notice that our body is in distress. Our heart is pounding and our breath is shallow, and like whew, I feel like I'm ready to like run. I feel like I need to run away from an enemy right now. Like the Taurus North Node has trained us, has like brought our attention into our physical vessel such that we are more aware when that physical effect is taking place. And from there, this like very grounded earth Taurus energy is able to ask itself, like, is my well-being really in jeopardy here? Is there really danger? Or am I fantasizing about danger? Because either one will wreak havoc on my body, but they're two very different things. And that Scorpio South node of like kind of being drawn into the chaos and the drama often treats them the same. So like just yesterday, I spent like all day journaling, like all day. Yesterday, yesterday, May 14th of 2023 was also when Mercury stationed direct in Taurus, just a couple degrees from the North Node. And I downloaded this whole thing about this inner security that I was very much lacking. I was very much taking my hijacked fear brain that got hijacked because I'm fantasizing about what could possibly happen over the horizon. I'm fantasizing about danger, and then my body gets all out of whack and freaked out and full of anxiety, and then I call the person that I was fantasizing about and I'm like, what are you doing? What's going on? And I take all of that fear and I direct it into the 3D, into the real world, into a real relationship with a real person. They just received my fantasy. Like there wasn't anything. I'm not in danger. I got myself worked up into believing that I was, and then I called them demanding that they make me feel safe. So like that was the pattern that I was seeing in myself yesterday. And again, working with the South Node or the North Node, they're both such a vulnerable place to be, where you have to look at what was your part in all of those situations and figure out like, okay, so if I want something different to unfold, North Node, then what do I need to do differently? What is it that I need to unlearn? And for me, it's been very much seeing the difference between when am I fantasizing about danger versus when am I actually in danger. And I'll tell you what, I've been practicing this whole time the North Node has been in Taurus, so like 16 months, and I have never actually been in danger. Every single time. Every single time. I'm not in danger. That is a fantasy. It's not real. Of course it could happen, right? Like I have strong Sagittarius and Pisces energy, like Jupiterian, like possibilities. Jupiter in my first house, like the possibilities are endless. Anything could happen. But that doesn't make it real. And Taurus, that grounded, fixed earth energy, that stable earth energy, knows that only when it's real is it worth hustling and getting a move on. Okay? Only when it's real. And then don't mess with a Taurus. Like they have all that power and stamina from all the energy that they didn't waste worrying about the things that weren't real. They saved it all for the real fight. So like even on the surface, Taurus looks so peaceful, but like it's a long-term strategy to win, which is very Aryan, very like much where we're headed as far as like you getting what you want and you using your life force energy to affect the world in the way that you want to cause effect, whatever that looks like for you. Bringing to life your grand vision of what the world could be using your own life force energy. So in order to do that, we have to pull all of that energy back into ourself. And so much of that means choosing to let go of the fantasy of danger. Choose to let go of being afraid of the unknown and accept that the unknown is an inevitability. If you want to evolve, get comfortable with the unknown. You know, like if you're in a pattern right now that you don't like the outcome, that means that in order to get the outcome that you want, there's a different pattern that you have to act out in order to get there. So everything that you're doing right now, and not to say everything, right? Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Like it's so much more granular. This is a very general video and I don't want to lose you in abstractions like everything, right? Not everything. Some things in your current pattern are leading to outcomes that you don't want. And some things in your current pattern need to be reevaluated. And for me, for example, one of those things was during the Scorpio South Node Transit, Taurus North Node Transit that we're just finishing, I found that I spend slash waste a lot of energy worrying about danger fantasies. And I made a choice, like in a very Taurus North Node, what are your values kind of way. I made a choice to stop worrying, to wait for real danger. And if real danger presents itself, then I will get a move on. But I'm not going to sit here and leak all of my energy all over the place in all these random directions because what if this could happen, or what if this could happen, or what if this could happen, or what if this could happen? And letting go of those potentialities have let me see that, like, just as often with the North Node, like, it can put you out of your depth by showering you with a blessing, that you didn't have before. For example, case in point, like I have a Pisces North Node, and so Pisces North Node in the 12th house. And so there was a turning point in my career. My North Node also sextiles my midheaven in Capricorn, where I left my software job to become an entrepreneur. And I did that because my intuition was telling me your business is ready. And that was such a beautiful turning point in this journey of leaning into the unknown, because what it wanted from me, the leap of faith, which that's a perfect little phrase for like a North Node keyword, the leap of faith that it wanted from me was to quit my job with no plan of what I was going to do next, with this intuitive hit that your business is ready for you, but you don't get to know what it is or how it's going to come about or when, but it's ready for you. And so, Field of Dreams style, if you build it, they will come. And I quit my job and was planning to spend a year unemployed and living off of my savings, and to see, if this business that's like ready for me, like if it's going to unfold or what. And 5 months in, it did. And it was the biggest blessing I have ever received. This was all during my Saturn return. And the biggest blessing I've ever received, I only got there because I took a leap of faith. And the growth edge that blessing brought me, I swear to you, if I had known the growth that would be required to undertake this journey, I never would have gone. So, like, I'm also hearing, okay, so like the North Node, like it's breadcrumbs. It's breadcrumbs. for a reason. And the reason is fear. Okay? Like we're very frightened beings. We're very, very frightened beings. Like that amygdala fear brain part of our brain, that reptilian part of our brain is the oldest. Like, what is that word? Like the circuitry. The oldest circuitry in our brain is that primal sensing for danger. Like just on the lookout for danger and like where is it and what is it and what's it going to do to me and how do I stay alive? Okay, so like that's the most beautiful piece to remember about our fear is that it's on our freaking team. Okay, like it's like the point person on our team, like the front scout on our team that is constantly scanning the area to make sure it's safe for us. Our fear is keeping us safe. That's what it's trained to do. It is like the most loyal soldier in your army is your fear. So no hate on the fear. We love our fear, okay? That's a good thing. And because of that fear that is so natural to us, that is why the North Node is breadcrumbs. And they give you these breadcrumbs, one little morsel at a time. They're like, hey, your business is ready for you. I'm like, really? They're like, quit your job. And so for 2 months, they're like, quit your job, quit your job. Your business is ready for you. Your business is ready for you. And I'm like, what business? They're like, you don't get to know that yet, but like it's ready and you need to quit your job. And so for 2 months, I was getting that message and I would not until, the day I did, where it was just like so obvious, like, dude, I'm in. I'm in, okay? I'm quitting my job. You're not going to tell me what this is all about. We're going to go. So like I did the breadcrumb that they gave me, which was to quit my job with no plan. No safety net isn't entirely accurate. I had savings. I was going to be fine. And I lived in Dallas, full of software companies. I came from a software company. I was a project manager. I was like, I'm going to get a job. I'm going to land on my feet if nothing else. Like that's worst case scenario. And so again, it's however you relate to the fear and however you like get yourself to move on each individual breadcrumb. Like I think so often, sometimes the reason that people may not ever make any real progress on their North Node journey, their like soul evolution in this lifetime, is because they want to see the whole kit and caboodle. They want to see like, okay, before I quit my job though, like what is the business? And like who's going to be my business partner? And like what's the net profit margin going to be? And like they like will have all these questions about like what is it, and let me decide, let me judge, let me use my free will to say yes, that's what I want. And like all of that, I'll say, for me in my 2 months of like getting the message, like quit your job, quit your job, quit your job. And I'm like, no, tell me the path and then I'll go. Like that's what I wanted. I wanted more breadcrumbs. I'm like, you're not going to get me to eat this one little breadcrumb without telling me more stuff. No. And 2 months later, fine, eat the breadcrumb. Like I feel like it's very Matrix like the presentation of the two pills, the red pill, the blue pill, like which one are you going to do? And like are you going to stay in safety or are you going to take the red pill? Are you going to eat the one little breadcrumb? You're like, god damn it, like I have this name for this is just what came through. Like I have this name for a podcast, but I don't know what I'm going to talk about. Like how am I supposed to start a podcast if I don't know what I'm going to talk about? It's like, download a podcasting app. I highly recommend Spotify for podcasters. And you can find it in the App Store, Android, iPhone, super easy. Like 2-3 clicks, you're like making an episode on your phone anywhere all the time. Like so easy. So like, this is what I mean by eat the breadcrumb. Like I have the name for a podcast, but I don't know what I'm going to talk about. It's like, okay, so download the podcasting app and register the name and go on Canva or some other, design, whatever, and like make the little logo for the name of your podcast and like put that on there. And like, dude, like there's so many steps just off that one breadcrumb. Set up the podcast. And then when the breadcrumbs come that says episode number 1 is called Go For It, and I'm going to talk about how sometimes you don't feel ready at all, but you do the thing anyway, even though you're scared. Like that, I'm just going to tell that story about like, this is basically what I'm doing right now. Like, this is the story of my podcast. This is why I have over 100 episodes on a podcast, because I only had the name. I only had like the general theory of like what these episodes were going to be. And I downloaded the app and I got the little logo ready. And then one day I come home from work and I'm having a beer and this idea drops in and I made my first episode. And the next morning I made the second one. So like, get ready. Get ready. Eat the breadcrumb. You know, if you build it, they will come. Whatever the first breadcrumb is that you have in front of you that you've been going back and forth with for 2 months is what I'm hearing. Like, you know the answer. You have the breadcrumb. And so when you eat that one, then there will be another one. And when you eat that one, then there will be another one. And I am just over 6 years into what I now call my grocery adventure, because it's not just one store. Now I have 2 stores and a grocery consulting career. So like, this adventure, this leap of faith that your business is ready for you. Your business is ready for you. Your business is ready for you. They couldn't have fucking told me what it was because I still think I don't even know what it is, right? Like, holy crap. Like, all of the things that this adventure has led to and has brought me all the breadcrumbs, and they just keep coming, right? Like, the second store was a breadcrumb. All of the different events, the event that I came up with that won us the award at a national level, like, that was a breadcrumb of our very first summer. I was like looking down this, like, we have it's like 18 feet wide of our center aisle, and we use it to merchandise different things. And so I was like looking down the center aisle and really thinking about Christmas and how I see it just decked out for Christmas. And I really want the entire store to just be like freaking Santa's workshop up in here. And I also very, very much knew and realized that like, we have no money. Like, we're doing good to pay our expenses every week and not have to fork over more cash to like make the thing work. Like, there's no budget. There's no budget for Christmas decorations, like less than zero. And so this is not going to be, like, we're not going to be able to do this. So I'm standing there though that day and I look down the center aisle and I see these 4 Christmas trees. And all of a sudden this like whole breadcrumb dropped in that was this Christmas tree decorating contest. And I was going to partner with 4 local nonprofits, and there would be a Christmas tree decorating contest where people could use their receipts to vote for whichever tree they liked the best. And at the end of it, the winner would get a certain amount of money to spend at the store on groceries for whatever event they wanted or whatever purpose they wanted. They could do whatever they wanted with that grocery credit. And that breadcrumb, like, again, like, we don't need all the information to make it happen. Like, all I needed was that one vision of the 4 Christmas trees and the loose rules of like how this whole thing is going to go down. And from there, like, one of the teams was for a girl who had cystic fibrosis, and she actually died right before the contest was over. And not only did the community, like by a landslide, vote for that tree, like for her family to win the money or the grocery credit, but all 3 of the other teams donated their team's winnings back to her family. So her family ended up getting like all the credit that we were going to give away. And so like $800 worth of groceries that her family got to buy, again, because she died before. This was like after her death, and I can't imagine what their life was at that point. I didn't know them. But to be able to provide that to total strangers, because I saw a vision of 4 Christmas trees. And then also fast forward a couple months later to we won this National Grocer Award for creative marketing. for doing that contest. And so we ended up being recognized at a national level. I got to go to San Diego and accept the award in front of everybody and like whatever. So like these breadcrumbs unfold, these little visions, these little pieces of information where it's like, tell me more and then I'll go. No, just go. Just start. Just start chewing on the breadcrumb that you're given. And by the time you're ready for another one, it will be given to you. So I honestly, wholeheartedly, this is the part that like really needed to be said is like, it's protective that we don't get to see all of the steps along the way before we go. Like there's a reason that we're only given the one little piece. And once we do that piece, then we just get the next little piece. Because if you saw the whole thing, you'd never go. You'd be too afraid to move. So don't even worry about that. Like the well-being is dominant. The danger, sometimes it's real. And in that case, our body is a powerhouse of self-protection. But sometimes, like, the self-protection that we really need is from ourselves, from our danger fantasies. And one of the best things, in my opinion, about the North Node is that it automatically takes this into account for us, that it automatically saves us from having to know what's coming so we can't obsess about like how everything is going to happen. Like you just don't get to know. And as hard as the unknown is, it's easier than knowing. It's easier. This is the path of least resistance, is to not know. Because if you knew, it would be so much harder. So the breadcrumbs, the one at a time little breadcrumbs, they are our friend. So all of that introduction wasn't on the script, wasn't on the plan. That was a drop in at the last moment. So I think I feel really good about that. And now we will get into specifically talking about the North Node transit through Aries. And to do that, I want to start off with this quote that says, "True happiness is not attained through self-gratification, but through fidelity to a worthy purpose." Helen Keller. I open our Aries North Node deep dive with this quote because Aries, part of the shadow of Aries is that it's aggressive and it fights and it's, the warrior, and it can be harsh and it can burn other people and it can be selfish, and like there's all of these different shadow words that we could associate with Aries energy. Number one, we all have Aries energy inside of us somewhere. We all have a Mars placement. So we all, basically what I'm getting at when I say that is we all possess these things. We're all selfish and we're all a warrior in some way, and we all have a worthy purpose deep down inside of us somewhere that is worth being loyal to, no matter what that means. Okay? And really, to paint that picture, I want to use the warrior archetype, and very specifically, like wars. I mean, as much as we can look back in history and see, different wars and how they played out and like what brought them about, like why did people go to war with each other? And we may look at that and say, like, oh, they didn't have a reason, or like not a good one anyway. And it's easy to think that, but when they went to war, like when they attacked the other side, they were being loyal to a worthy purpose. In most cases, they're fighting for territory or their country or, whatever it is. And again, we may look at that and say, but that's not a good reason to fight with people. Like, that's not a good reason to go to war. Like, again, we didn't live it. Like, that's not for us to say. When they were inside of it, they were paying tribute to a worthy purpose. by paying the ultimate price of their life and putting their life on the line to guard and fortify this worthy purpose of their country or their territory or whatever. And so I think the point here is that there's a question, right? Like, it's not just like we talked about in the Libra South Node deep dive. Like, it's not for us to find the right answer and then impose it on other people. It's for us to find what feels right to ourselves. So, what is your own worthy purpose? And some of us are, on a path of, we have some kind of like creative purpose, or we have a spiritual purpose, or we want to be an entrepreneur and create a full supply chain, like integrated business model. Like, I mean, everybody has their own. I'm also just hearing like some of us are on missions of like cleaning up the planet and restoring balance to the planet and finding eco-friendly solutions to create some transformations around how we live our everyday life on this planet to be in greater right relationship with it. So every single person has their own mission. And then there are those who have children. And this becomes their worthy purpose. This becomes their mission in life. And one is not greater than the other. Like, there is no right worthy purpose. There's just, again, like that relationship between you and you, where you know what your worthy purpose is that you would lay down your life for, and what's not that. And again, I would go back to that Taurus, sinking into our own inner security and being mindful of, am I fighting on behalf of my worthy purpose, right? Like, is this fight me being loyal to my ultimate purpose in this life? Like, this is what my life is for. That's why I'm fighting this fight, because this is what I was born for, like, maybe. And maybe sometimes we're over here arguing with Karens and managers and things that just like don't fucking matter. And we're leaking our life force energy out the door on things that are not our worthy purpose. Trying to gain consensus with other people, Libra South Node. Trying to find balance and harmony with other people, Libra South Node. On this Aries North Node end, it is very much like you are the only one who can live out the worthy purpose that your soul came here for. That's why you came, because nobody else was going to do this thing, whatever your worthy purpose is. And again, like, maybe that's having kids. Like, nobody else is going to parent your kids. Like, maybe that's opening this particular business. Maybe that's creating this particular healing modality. Maybe that's creating this particular technology that helps us stop burning fossil fuels. Like, who the hell knows? Like, none of it is better or worse than any of the rest of it. So like, finding what lights your soul on fire, what stokes your ember, what gets you into the headspace of, I was born for this. I was born for this. What is that? And how can you, day by day by day, 1 degree turn by 1 degree turn by 1 degree turn, how can you reorient yourself into greater and greater energies going towards that worthy purpose, and fewer energies leaking out into these relationships with other people who, while they're all well and good and possibly have even like beautiful intentions for why they want to seek harmony and connection and relationship with you, if it at all stands in the way of your worthy purpose, this transit of the Aries North Node is asking you, which is more important? Which is more important? The reason that you were born, or harmonizing with another person? And it all gets very confusing, I think, when, one, we're not really meant to leave the Libra North Node all the way behind, meaning there's always going to be other people. There's always going to be other people, even when we're on our own worthy purpose and we're fighting with all we've got, like there's probably other people in that with us. Most of the time, sometimes, depends on what your fight is. And we also have all of these other energies at play. Like right now, at the time of recording this, for example, the Pluto is at 0 degrees of Aquarius, and 0 degrees Aquarius is very much talking about how to bring your own life force energy and your own worthy purpose to the table with a bunch of other like-hearted souls who are going to bring their worthy purposes to the table, and you're going to pile them all together, and we're going to have something synergistic that is even bigger and more positively impactful than we could have been on our own. And so all of this is kind of happening simultaneously. And so I don't want to get us confused as far as like, you know, oh, she's saying to burn all the bridges and like fuck everybody and like nobody else matters. Like that's not entirely what I'm saying. It's a little bit more complex than that, but there is a simple path as far as like in order to sit at that table that I'm describing with the right others, the heart aligned soul tribe others that are upon similar worthy purposes, complementary worthy purposes, to where they're not doing what you're doing. They're doing their own thing, but they fit together like puzzle pieces. And they bring something even more magical into the light. So in order to sit at that table, you have to be shining your authentic light. Like you have to be living your worthy purpose in order to come together with other people who are also doing the same and collaborate from that point. So it's like there's a precursor, a prerequisite to that beautiful Aquarian soulful collaboration for the greater good. To show up at that party, the invitation is going to the address of your authentic self. And if you're not living from that life, then you're not getting your invitation. So this transit of the North Node through Aries is about really making sure that you live at that address. So that when your divine collaborator invitation shows up at your authentic address, you're right there to open the door and say, oh my God, I was born for this. I've been waiting for you. I've been expecting you. Like this, it gets to be perfect timing of readiness for you and for them, and you both get to come together and swap stories about how you became your authentic self. And that swapping of stories even is part of that, the Libra South Node that we really aren't supposed to let go of, and the Pluto and Aquarius 20-year period that we're just on the very beginning of. And these air energies where the collaboration with the other is absolutely at the core of like these next 20 years. And yet, in order to be the collaborator, the one half of that divine collaboration, it's your authentic self. And so I'm not at all, let me check myself because I don't mean at all. And I feel like I've done an okay job towing this line. Like, I don't at all mean to say like, you're not authentic enough yet, like you need to be better or like whatever. But like from the vantage point of the North Node, which says you will evolve as long as you are here. So like, it's never over. The chapters just keep coming. So like, it's like, just what flavor of evolution are we in right now? And the only thing that ever changes is the flavor, right? So we're going to keep evolving. We're going to keep becoming more and more and more of our authentic self. And that's okay. That doesn't mean that we're not doing good enough right now. It just means that in this next cycle of energy, we have new and different opportunities for how we are going to become a more authentic version of ourselves. Which brings me to the overall goal of the transit North Node through Aries is to awaken you to the immediate truth of your inner power. Awakening you to the immediate truth of your inner power. you have the power. You have the power to decide what rights do you have. Our rights are not given to us by society or the law or anybody else. Our rights are given to us by spirit, the fact that we have life, the fact that our heart beats. We are here, we exist, and our rights are inherently of that life. That is where our rights come from. And at any point, when we feel that we are not able to claim what is rightfully ours, the Aries North Node will come in and will introduce a new situation, a growth-oriented situation. And often how it does that, I was mentioning in the Libra South Node video how, basically in this dynamic of Aries the self and Libra the other, I see kind of the archetypal manifestation that introduces this growth North Node Aries energy is an other that is just unharmonizable, right? Like someone that is so outside the boundaries of what you think is right and fair and what you have a right to. They're treating you so differently than how it is that you believe you have a right to be treated. And in that moment, that is a perfect example of this South Node, North Node dynamic at play. And with the South Node in Libra, the old pattern, the overgrown, outlived its usefulness, kind of going toxic, growing mold energy in this case is that Libra side of, well, but I don't want to rock the boat, and I'm sure he means well, and I'll just stay out of his way, and I'll just, he's fine, just, yeah, leave him to, okay, whatever. And you acquiesce. You come over here and you balance with whatever the fuck they got going on. And I'm telling you, at a certain point during this transit, it is a showdown of no, you will not speak to Precious that way. That's the quote from, I shared it in one of the other videos, but I downloaded it at a very, the Precious is worth it. You will not speak to the Precious that way. You will respect the Precious. And when I downloaded that, I wasn't picturing me saying that to this other person. I was picturing me saying that to me. You will respect the Precious. And when I choose to allow myself to be mistreated and just acquiesce and balance to whatever dominant force they are over there that I don't agree with, but I'm not going to fight that tide. Balancing with their energy will become so painful. It will grate like a cheese grater against your soul until you fight the tide and you stand firm on your side of the scales and say, if we are going to have harmony, you will begin by treating me with respect. And we say that because we believe that's how we deserve to be treated. And so this Aries North Node, building up of our courage, building up of our willingness to show fidelity to a worthy purpose. And in that download of you will respect the Precious, the worthy purpose is me and my beingness. And I will not allow myself to be mistreated. I won't. And so it's not personal to anybody. It doesn't apply to this one person. It applies to me and my relationship with me, that I will respect myself. And in respecting myself, sometimes that means that I'm not going to be able to harmonize with disrespectful behavior. You know, like sometimes that means others will be disqualified from harmonizing with me because they're not willing to treat me with respect. Conflict, courage, vulnerable, exposed. Like these are Aries North Node words, and that is again where the warrior archetype sounds so brave and like, oh, like charging into battle and like the war cry and vicious warriors and badass and like on the surface, yeah, but I would almost guarantee that they're like psyching themselves up to be able to overcome their fear, right? Like our lives, the fear of death is like the scariest thing that our human self will ever have to rectify with. That's why we don't like the unknown, because the unknown could have something in it that's going to kill us. So we don't want that. Again, the body is a powerhouse of self-protection, and these instincts, they just live inside of us. And so at a certain point, this self-protection will blossom. And the word that's coming is bully. That like there's a bully who is going to force you, they're going to back you into a corner, demanding that you acquiesce to them. And that will be your moment of like, I will not be treated this way. You will not speak to me like that. You know, like there is an oppositional force with Aries. Like if you think about the warrior archetype, they're not fighting themselves. They're fighting the opponent. And without the opponent, really like there is no war. And so showing fidelity to a worthy purpose often requires some level of opposition who is like, again, in the kids example, like there are people who would struggle greatly to protect themselves, but as soon as their children are threatened, as soon as they see harm coming to their children, then they're like, I will not let my child receive this kind of treatment, even though, like, I was watching the Scientology documentary the other day, and this is what happened. This woman, she'd been in Scientology for years and years and years, and had been mistreated and like locked up and like all of these things. The documentary is called Going Clear, Scientology in the Prison of Belief. If you're interested, you can watch it on YouTube. But yeah, like what finally snapped her out of it was they took her baby. And when she finally got reunited with the baby had been totally neglected and was like in very bad shape, very disgusting conditions. And finally she was like, oh my God, I cannot let my baby be treated like this. And she took the baby and she left Scientology and like was out of the cult from that point on. Um, I was going to apologize for calling it a cult, but that's what I think is true. So I think I'm just going to leave that there. And the 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 opposition and like the circumstances of whatever causes you to wake up and to advocate for yourself, advocate for whatever worthy purpose that is. And like, again, sometimes our Aries energy is used to shield and protect vulnerable others that are really important to us, like our family, our spouse, our children, like whatever it is, or again, ourselves. Like if you believe that you have a mission of bringing something extremely valuable into the world, wouldn't you protect yourself? Wouldn't you like stand up for your own rights of freedom and liberation and ability to be whatever size and shape and whatever you think you need to be to live out your worthy purpose? Like like we get to say what our rights are. So who gets to decide what rights you have? And that's where, again, like maybe you think it's somebody else, or maybe this Taurus North Node transit has brought you to the place of knowing that your inner animal is basically like driving the ship, like basically telling you what you need. And we have a right to what we need. Like, it's that simple. So that's where kind of Taurus and Aries work together. Like, Taurus is feeding us, here's what you need. Here's what's like core value, important nourishment to your soul. This is what we need. That's what Taurus says and just got done telling us. And then here comes Aries to be like, okay, I will fight for that. I will protect us in that space. I will, like, it is very feminine in the Taurus space and masculine in the Aries space, value and protecting the value. So yeah, when the outside source doesn't agree, when the other doesn't agree that you have a right to what you need, who wins? What does that moment look like? And again, the Libra South Node shadow is giving up. Oh, I don't, I'm supposed to just take this and that's all okay, yeah. Well, you're the authority figure, so I guess you know. You're the more powerful one, so I guess you know. No, they don't. No, they don't. We know. We know inside of ourselves. And this Taurus North Node transit has helped to open us up to that knowing. And this Aries North Node transit will just continue that. So these are my keywords for Aries energy, and I'm just going to take them one at a time. So self-discovery. If you're just starting out, and really, again, I kind of think like no matter how far along your journey you are, because we're in the North Node territory and the North Node through Aries, Aries being self-discovery, North Node being brand new territory that we've never been there before, it's like, what if there's a whole other plane of existence inside of you? Like, there is a whole other wing of your house inside of you that you haven't explored yet. And so self-discovery, no matter how far along your path you are, is absolutely something that this transit can bring. So it's like hours later at this point, same day, hours later. And I have like a whole new leading edge to bring you. Of course, the leading edge of the Aries North Node deep dive would expand while I'm making it. So then you have to come back later and like build a, it'll be never ending. At some point I will have to cut it off. But this next set of keywords, like basically where I just stopped with talking about self-discovery, I stopped it because my intuition told me that my hard drive was about to be full, and like you're gonna just pause right there and make sure you get what you just got, the 30 minutes or whatever. And so then I started again and I captured about 7 more minutes, and when I stopped that one, it was like, nope, you didn't have space to save this. That basically never happened. And that was me talking through the rest of the keywords, and I was like, divine timing, total trust. Thank you so much. We've all been spared from having to listen to me do that list. And during these last few hours, during the exploration that I've done, my self-discovery that I've done in just the last few hours, we have a different list of keywords that wants to be seen. And we are going to leave self-discovery as the first one. And the original list took it all the way to self-actualization. And I debated, like, is that even possible in life? Like, is it even possible to be a physical human and become fully self-actualized? Or is self-actualization a verb, not a location? Like, it's a way of traveling. You're actualizing yourself. And so really, like at that point, the whole list that I had originally could be boiled back down into self-discovery. And what I want to speak to are the people who are really long along their path of like, you've already done so much self-discovery. You've already done so much healing of yourself. You've already poured into your cup over and over and over. You've built up your sense of worthiness, your sense of inner strength. You've already started to build up your courage. So it's like you're not at square one. And that's a very clear message for basically anybody watching this, is that you are not starting this Aries North Node transit from square one. And what does that mean? what does that mean? Well, it means that, like, as good as it already is, it's about to get better. And how exciting is that? How exciting is that? This Aries North Node Transit is like the cherry on top of, okay, so now that you have this courage, now that you have this strength, now that you're in touch with your worthiness, what does that mean? What does it mean? And this next topic, I gotta admit, I gotta be authentic. I gotta own my authenticity right here, right now, and tell you how uncomfortable it makes me to talk about sexuality, my own especially, like, in the details of it. It is one of those rare places in my Gemini openness that I do actually feel very private about my sexuality. And what I'm realizing just even here this morning is that it's not just private from you guys, it's kind of private from me. I keep it somewhat repressed, like even within myself. And what is coming through is that one of the primary arenas of self-discovery that we are entering into is a sexual one. And like, again, I laugh because I'm uncomfortable. I'm also excited, like, pleasure, hello, that sounds fun. But I also know from, like, basically that understanding of, like, taking this into a sexual space, like, it brings up my sexual history and, like, any of the baggage or wounding that is still present within me because of my sexual experiences in the past. And that I can see why, like, for kind of survival reasons, like, it was just too much. Like, merging sexually with another, like, it was just too much. And so I have, like, really pulled back and, like, distanced myself and really focused on building up my sense of worthiness inside of myself. Stella is yipping in confirmation of the good work that we're doing here. Keep it up, guys. So yeah, I've been really, really focused on building up my inner strength and my inner worthiness. And this Aries North Node, fire energy, exploration and discovery, moving to the edge of your comfort zone and beyond, what's coming through that is, like, beyond my comfort zone is my own sexuality. So, okay, that's interesting, right? And that's all I'm going to say about it. Is, like, it's interesting and it's food for thought. And there are some questions that want to be answered, that these are what my spiritual support are posing to me for, like, me to think about in terms of, like, what is right for me and what do I want. And I'm not going to answer these questions. No, on this video. In my journal, this is the work that I'm upon at this time, and so I am going to share those questions with you. So actually, let me grab. Okay, so here is the piece that is what we are discovering, and it's, very understandable that, okay, so in sex, there's giving and receiving. That's, like, the basic idea that we're working with here. And the questions are, how much receiving and giving do you do? So, like, what kind of a ratio? Is it all giving, no receiving? Is it all receiving, no giving? Like, is it all, other words for giving and receiving might be, like, directing and following, like setting the vibe and submitting to the vibe. Like, there's lots of different ways we can picture this dynamic. And again, I'm keeping it very hypothetical because of my discomfort. But these receiving and giving and how much you do, like, right now, and just as kind of like an observational starting point, and taking it then to the next level is, how much do you want to do? How much giving and receiving do you want to do? Like, what is an ideal mixture of that as far as what you would like to be offering? And then how much receiving and giving do you want your partner to introduced from their side. So these three questions: how much do you do? How much do you want to do? How much do you want to be done to you? These are the questions that are part of this sexual self-discovery and exploration that is, I think, part of this upcoming cycle for a good many of us. So the next one is physical strength. And this is a very Aries concept, a very first house concept in more modern astrology, where you're associating the first house with Aries. It's the concept of like the spark of life and the physical body that you were born with, like the physical dimensions of you, like the natural shape of you. There are things that we can change and tweak about our body. Like, let's say if I did an hour of yoga every day, which I do not, that'd be awesome. My body would be like banging. I don't do that. And so I don't have the strength that would come with that. So I'm more looking like the body I was born with, not necessarily the body I could have if I chose to engage in a certain daily routine. That body that you have as a result of your routines is much more Virgo in the sixth house, where your daily routine is producing whatever kind of body you have or that you inhabit. And so when we're in Aries energy, when we're in the first house, we're more talking about like the parts that you can't change. So like I'm 5'5". Like that's pretty much set, other than as my spine shrinks as I grow old, like I'll probably shrink a little bit. But like for the most part, like I'm 5'5". Like that's just part of who I am. And so there's this physicality and physical strength and a strengthening within what you are. So like it's not realistic for me to think that I'm going to be like some Hulk Hogan bodybuilder. Not only do I have no desire, I also don't have a physical form that could probably transition into that. At least it would take years of like solid daily routine to get me there. Like I'm a marshmallow pretty much. Like just like, yeah, you know. And so like that's what I got going on. But I can feel already this pull into my body and this pull into my physical energy, like my life force energy that like lights up my muscles. Like for example, when I lived in Dallas, Texas, um, when I cast my chart for Dallas, Texas, it changed my rising sign to an Aries rising, where on my natal chart, I'm a Taurus rising. So just like going south 8 hours, like made me an Aries rising. And when I lived in Dallas, like I can attest to being a whole lot more physical. Like I was a runner and was just a lot more active and with my exercise and like going to yoga studios and like really being intentional about like investing in strengthening my body and taking good care of it, making sure that it's strong. Maybe not strong as like some unrealistic fantasy version of myself, but strong in what I'm working with here. Stronger than marshmallow status for sure. I had like muscles in Dallas. Like it was hardcore. And there's just like, I don't know, I've just been on bed rest for a couple years now, and that's resulted in marshmallow body. But I'm not mad about it. I just can feel that there is this shift of kind of having a different relationship with it, like where we've been through the Taurus North Node, where that's like a Venus ruled North Node. It's been very like pamper ourselves and be nice to ourselves and tuck ourselves into a comfy bed with a cozy blanket and a yummy snack. You know, like let's max out the sensual enjoyment of our life right now. And so I've been in that mode for a while, not to mention I'm a Taurus rising, Taurus Jupiter in the first house. So that's kind of my life in general. But I can feel that the Aries North Node is pulling us back into a place where the joy and the exhilaration and the pleasure side of it with a Mars ruled North Node, the pleasure is going to be more coming from using our muscles, feeling our strength like in our muscles. and doing things that require that strength and feeling your strength pushing beyond what you've done before. I mean, when I was a runner, that feeling of like running the half marathon and crossing the finish line and knowing that I trained hard for this, right? Like I worked hard with my body. We did routines for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks to get ready for this one big exertion of my strength. And the recovery process from that was wicked, but it was so pleasurable to have the strength to spend. So that's the part, the pleasure of spending the strength is what can motivate us to do the parts that we need to do to invest in the strength that we have within this body that we were born with. So the last keyword is decisiveness and impulsivity. And what I want to okay, so like there's your thought form about what is decisiveness. Like when I ask you that question, you have a response inside your mind of like maybe pictures or a memory or a person that you think is really decisive. Like your intuition is serving you up your own thought form around decisiveness. And same with when I ask you what is impulsivity to you, what does that mean to you? You also have your own awareness of what is impulsivity. And perhaps, that, for example, maybe that's something that people have called you, and like you associate that with the black sheep of your family kind of thing is what I just saw of like, yep, that's why society rejects me. I'm too impulsive. Like maybe that's one way of looking at it. Maybe it's the other way of like, yeah, my parent was so impulsive when I was growing up and it really made it so I couldn't feel stable and secure. Like it really made it so I felt like I had to, be the stable one or the secure one because they were just all over the place. Like you just couldn't predict what they were going to do. And so like there's all different ways, right? When I ask you what is impulsivity, what is decisiveness, you have your own understanding right now, right here of what those two things are. And what I want to say, what I want to introduce, I want to plant this little seed down into the thought form of those two things, decisiveness and impulsivity. And I want to say that they are like synonymous. Synonymous. They're synonymous. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Because I almost didn't. I'm like, wait, what? Synonyms. Synonyms, they're synonyms for each other, decisiveness and impulsivity. Also, authenticity is another very harmoniously similar concept of what Aries energy, like in the highest frequency of Aries energy, one of the gifts is survival instincts. And survival instincts are born from something that Aries energy in its highest frequency is really good at, which is split second decision making. Split second decision making. You do not have time to think, you have to act, and there is no time to think. Life is not going to grant you that right now. So act and hope for the best, right? Like that's where Aries shines. And it's because that energy is our primal authenticity. It is who we are. So there's nothing to think about, there's nothing to decide, there's nothing to choose, there's only action. It's so simple and beautiful that when we tune in to who we really are, the entire world simplifies tremendously to where it's this sounds so cliche because I've heard so many people say it. It's like once you get there, you realize like it was inside you all along. Like, but that's really how it is. It's like nothing really changes. The outside world is still the same crazy thing that it was yesterday, but that's not my world. Like my world is in here. Like this in here is who I am. There's nothing to decide. There's nothing to portray. There's nothing to aim for, even. There's only the natural shape of the spark of the essence of who you are, who you were born to be. And that, like, this process of owning our authenticity, or even knowing what our authenticity is so that we can own it, this process is not about learning who you are. And again, this is so cliche because I've heard it so much too, but it is so true here. It's not about learning who you are, it's about unlearning who you're not. Like the courage to just be, the courage to listen to your body and let it tell you what's true for you. That's not complicated. It's not hard. It's not difficult. It's not complex. It is actually the easiest thing you will ever do. Like when we get into the highest frequency of our Aries energy, we will be amazed at what our body is truly capable of. It will show us things that we could not orchestrate it to do ourselves. It's just capable of doing this. And we get to live inside this magnificent vessel that is capable of all of these beautiful things. That is our blessing. That is our biggest blessing. That's the biggest reward, the biggest lottery jackpot we will ever receive in this life, is the body we manifested ourselves into. This authenticity that Aries energy fans the flames of, that this Aries energy is like kind of just promising us that it'll be okay. Like that North Node leap of faith. If you find your melody, the world will join in harmony. Like if you express your authenticity, that may be a birth canal, to use an Aries reference, a birth canal that you do have to travel through solo. You do have to go through it by yourself. But when you get to the other side, the metaphorical other side in this situation, there are people there who recognize and familiarize with your authentic self and the connection that's possible at that point is nothing that's possible while we're living inside of who society wants us to be. When we're portraying the character that is us, we're playing ourselves in the movie of our lives, using the script that was given to us when we got here. No shade, no shame in doing that. We all do that for the first part of our life. That's chapter 1. And some people's chapter 1 is longer, shorter, wider, deeper, higher. Everybody's story is different. That's why we're all here. So that's okay. And it's okay that we have a chapter 1, right? Like a story is only good if you can set up a really good protagonist. So, that chapter 1, it really gives us a lot of, like I'm seeing like dry lumber, like wood chips and newspaper pieces of like, it gives the flammable materials for when we do come into our power and this fire is lit within us. That all of these things from chapter 1, all of these little nuggets, these burnable little nuggets that contribute to how huge of a fire is capable of glowing within you. Chapter 2 is where you burn that shit to ash and the phoenix rises in chapter 3. So yeah, like everybody's in their own story. Everybody's along that journey somewhere differently. Like, if you're familiar with the hero's journey, I think Joseph Campbell is who really talked about that a lot. There's a series of videos that I'm going to link in the description that I haven't even watched through all of them, but some of them. And just this like, there's the archetype of the hero that Aries energy really has each and every single one of us playing the hero in our own story. And this Aries North Node chapter of the 18 and a half year nodal cycle, this is really where I think we get to see like what storyline are we upon? Like, what opponent are we up against? What truth, what worthy purpose are we fighting on the side of? You know, like in the epic battle of light and darkness, which side are you giving your light to? Which side are you devoting your life force's momentum to furthering? You know, we vote with our energy, our attention, our dollars. We devote our resources, our precious time and energy. We devote those things to the causes that matter most to us. And a lot of us, we spend our resources without really meaning to. We give our attention away willy-nilly because people ask for it. We do things that everybody else is doing because that's the trend right now. We do all kinds of things that spend our resources in ways that don't add up into soul gratifying outcomes for us. And this Aries North Node Transit is asking each and every one of us, like, is your soul nourished by your life? And in what ways could it be more nourished? You know, back to the point of like, think about how good it already is, and it's just about to get better. So, the fact that it's going to evolve can be very exciting. And for me, that's exactly where I'm at. Dear friend, thank you so much for joining me for another installment in this Aries North Node series. I am so excited to be birthing this series out into the world. A friend reminded me this morning, she's like, you know that series is for you, right? Like, you know that here in a year when you're up against it and like you're going to be able to go back to this series and like rewatch this grounded wisdom from the before, you know, when I'm naive and I have no idea what I'm up against. I've only eaten the first breadcrumb, right? Like, I haven't found the other breadcrumbs, and then I get like further into it and the breadcrumbs get scary. And she's like, you'll be able to go back to this. And it really is, I can say proudly, like, this is the series I wanted to watch. Like, this is the way that I thought this transit deserved to be handled. Like the royalty of astrology transits that it is. I am so excited to be in this ongoing process of bringing this information onto the planet. If you have any questions at all, I would love to hear from you down below. I would also love to hear from you just about your relationship with your personal Aries energy in general. At the time of recording this, I do have one more video that I am considering making. I have some notes outlined for it. As I've seen through the rest of these videos, that don't mean shit. Most of what's in here is not what was in the plan. Aries energy, classic. Going with the leading edge and taking up more space, not less. If this is something that's resonating with you, I feel compelled to invite you to please come check out my Patreon. I host a monthly spiritual conversation on the fourth Tuesday of each month, and we get together and we chat about life. So astrology comes up a lot, but really it's more of a conversation grounded about life and what's going on and what are we processing and, you know, what page of our story are we on today? And these people who show up in this space are others who will witness and want to be witnessed in the telling of their authentic story. So if that's something that rings the bell inside of you like it does for me, I mean, obviously I love showing up in that space, um, then check it out. And the price is set at pay what feels good. It will charge you monthly, but it's as low as $1, as high as you want to go. Whatever feels right to you to let you show up in that space, knowing that you have every right to receive the love that's there for you. Dear friend, it's a magical bubble that I highly encourage. If that feels at all good, please go check it out. I'll also link in the description, I have a video about like a free preview of kind of typically like at the beginning of the Sacred Circle, I'll chat a little bit about kind of whatever's coming through at that time and then open it up for discussion. And then we just kind of popcorn and bounce around and everybody gets a time. So again, check that out if that feels fun. Check out the other parts of this series. Those are linked in the description box below. There's also a music playlist that I'm so excited to share with you. It's called Need a Little Extra, because sometimes when we reach inside for our strength and our courage, we come up just a little bit short, and we could use just a little bit of encouragements. And so pretty much every song on that playlist, you can't go wrong. Any of them are just like a little boost to, you can do this. You can totally do this. You're an empowered divine being on this planet. Like, the perfection of your form cannot be overstated. You cannot do anything to lose it. There's nothing that would ever disqualify you from it. It is yours, it belongs to you, and it is breathtakingly radiant. This is who you are. In truth, this is who you are. Dear friend, thank you so much for joining me. Oh, take such good care of the radiant being that you are, and so will I.